Hello and welcome to episode 2 of season 5 for the TML Domain podcast. Glad you guys can join me. I want to start off by congratulating Austin Matthews on being named the 26th captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's an incredible honor, as he said himself. It's it's something that's been a long time coming. He's felt like the face of the franchise, the best player on the team. He's the engine that drives the train, right? And it's interesting that they did it now. It's to me, it's the right time of the summer to do it because we're so close to training camp that when you hear something like this, the hockey conversations start up. You start talking hockey, how the team is built, things like that. It's driving conversation and it's getting people excited for the season to come. I know uh since I heard that this was going to happen, that Austin Matthews is going to be named captain. I'm not gonna lie. I got excited thinking about the season, and I know a lot of people have varying opinions, especially when it comes to Leafs Nation. Varies Opinions always vary, and there are some people that are just Toronto sports fans, and they're cynical, right? No matter what you say, they'll spin it in a negative way. And I posted on our Facebook account, that this was going to happen a couple of days before it happened, and the comments that I got were very interesting. They called Matthews selfish. They're like, this guy has panic attacks in the playoffs. That's why he missed games in the Boston series. Like, they just, it's unbelievable the stuff that they say about Matthews or anybody on the Leafs, whether it be Mitch Marner, Nylander, whatever it is. Like, it's real personal stuff, and the you haven't spent a minute of your life in this guy's presence. You haven't talked to him, you haven't seen him, you haven't hung out with him. And yet everybody says that, like, there is nobody more driven to win, nobody more driven to be the best player on the ice, regardless of who's playing or what the stakes are. You know, all you hear is this stuff, and then all of a sudden, the fans come up with these asinine things to say about our players. Like, it doesn't make any sense for you to be a hockey fan and root for the Leafs, but to say this kind of stuff about your players or the players of your team. It makes zero sense. Why are you a Toronto Maple Leaf fan and want them to win, but then you make up stuff with zero basis. You have no clue who this guy is. You haven't hung out with him. You haven't talked with him. You haven't done anything. But apparently, you know the most intimate details. This guy has panic attacks during the playoffs. I can never understand that part of it. Like, there are players you like and there are players you don't like, and I'm the same way. But for me, it's always about results. I don't attack people's, like, you see a picture of Mitch Marner on a jet ski and Twitter goes insane. Leaf fans jumping on this guy. Look at this guy's work ethic. He's always, on a jet ski. He's always having fun. What would you do if you were the fan of a Florida team and all you saw was Stamkos, Hedman, and all these guys on jet skis in the water every single day in Florida? Just walking around in shorts and flip flops, going to the dock, riding the boat or riding jet skis. What would you say about those guys? You don't hear. It's perfectly okay for these guys to have a life, to go out to the cottage with the wife, with the kids, with the family, and for them to have fun. Like, Just because he's a hockey player for the Toronto Maple Leafs, like this guy can't have a life, this guy can't go out, this guy can't do anything. God forbid this guy posts a picture of himself on a jet ski with his dog having fun. It doesn't make any sense. The personal stuff doesn't make any sense. If you like a guy or if you don't like a guy, you like his production, goal scoring, assists, whatever it is, for me, it's always about the numbers and it's about production, right? If the Leafs go through a series and Mitch Marner only gets a couple of points and he doesn't score any goals, then you talk about it and you say, oh, well, you wanted more out of this guy in the key moments of the game, especially when Nylander missed games and then he came back and all of a sudden scored the only two goals in the game, and the Leafs won that game. Austin Matthews goes off for a goal and two assists in game two versus the Bruins, and Matthews wins a game by himself. Nylander wins a game by himself. You see John Tavares driving the net, making plays. Nye scores in overtime. You see these plays and you're like, okay, well, these guys are trying hard. At least the competitiveness is there and the compete is there. But to get personal about, oh, look at this guy, he's in Italy, or this guy's in Paris, and this guy's in Sweden, none of that stuff makes any sense. These guys are in the best shape. These guys dedicate their life to working out to be in hockey shape. Now, hockey shape is different. You see football players, they're probably bigger, more muscle, but they still have to be athletic. Hockey players are built different than tennis players, than, baseball players. Baseball. I grew up playing baseball and loved baseball. And all my life, all I've ever heard playing the game and from the people coaching the game and teaching the game are, baseball is a truck driver sport. It's not meant, like there are these, in every sport, there are guys who are in incredible shape, just no body fat, muscle, power, athleticism, running, like that exists in every sport, but every sport is built differently because you have to build your body up in a different way. So it's I don't understand the personal attacks. You guys don't know what it takes to dedicate your life to a sport. You know, most people don't understand that the amount these guys have sacrificed to get to where they are. And to just go online and just complain, oh, Mitch Marner's on a jet ski and Nylander's in Sweden, and like these guys don't care. What do you think the players who live in Vegas are doing? You don't think they're having fun? The guys in Florida, all you see is Stamkos and flip flops and jet skis and boats. I mean, like, Toronto fans are really hard on the players for zero reason. You don't know these guys, you don't know their personal life. When it comes to hockey conversations, stick to production. Talk about what they have and haven't done, what they can do better, and things like that. When you say, "Oh, I don't like Mitch Marner because of his work ethic," just because you saw one picture of the guy on a jet ski with his dog in his lap, I mean, you're not talking hockey at that point. You don't know. You're telling us that you don't have any hockey facts. You don't know how to break down his game. That's really what you're doing, and it's unnecessary because these guys, through severe injuries and surgeries and all these other things, are working their asses off to get to where they are. So at the end of the day, I saw the behind the scenes video that the Toronto Maple Leafs posted, and I had so right off the bat when and Tavares signed with the Toronto Maple Leafs, I was super excited. The guy is a world class person. He's amazing with the community. He's great with the charity work. Was Austin Matthews supposed to be named captain? Yes. Was he named captain? No. Tavares got it because it was the safe choice. They're like, let's give Matthews some time, let him grow into it. On the day of the announcement, a lot of accounts, especially like sick kids, posted pictures of the numerous times Austin Matthews has been there and hung out with the kids and made wishes come true, and just the amount of time he spent there volunteering his time. That's captain material right there. Like, the community is the big part of it. Um, the fans are a huge part of it. Talking every day, which he already does. Like, John Tavares has been doing this for a while. He signed a 7-year deal, and he's been captain for 5. But he's 33, and he's entering, the latter half of his career. And I still like his production. I like what he brings to the Leafs. He's still elite in the face-off circle, especially in defensive zone, offensive zone. Like, in the playoffs, you saw it. When the Leafs needed a face-off win, they put Tavares out there, and he would win like 5 in a row against the Bruins. In times where the power play was out there and they needed a face-off win, or they're trying to protect the lead and they needed a defensive face-off win, they put him out there and he would win 1, 2, 3 in a row. Like, he brings a lot to the table. And the only thing really is, when you're talking about the captaincy and John Tavares, is, I see it with other teams. The Edmonton Oilers are a great example. When McDavid is on a hot streak and he's putting up an insane amount of points and goals, it feels different, right? He's the captain of the team, and he's just going out there and he's just obliterating teams, you know, cutting and slashing through the defense. You can't stop this guy, and it makes the team seem better, and it gives them a boost that their captain is just unstoppable. Like, this guy's going to go out there, and no matter what you do, he's going to do his thing and he's going to produce results. Now, you know, let's just say, like, on Edmonton, Hyman had a great year last year. But no matter how much you celebrate the guy and say he's a good player and he's producing, it doesn't have the same pop as it's when it's your captain. Now, just imagine this last year, right? The season starts. Austin Matthews gets a hat trick in the first 2 games of the season. Now, as soon as he scores the 2 hat tricks, people are like, "Oh my God, he's already on pace for so many goals. He's gonna break his own record. He's gonna break the Maple Leaf record for most goals in a season. This guy could hit 70. Blah 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 blah." Right? And as crazy as that talk is, and this guy could score 70, like, he's putting up these unbelievable numbers. It hits different when he's the captain and he's putting up those numbers, right? The only reason why I like this move is because, first of all, Austin Matthews is your best player, but John Tavares, unfortunately, has been captain on a team where he's overshadowed by the greatness of Austin Matthews, and it takes away from the captaincy a little bit. Like, even though um the Leafs have playoff moments with John Tavares' fingers all over it, like I just said, last playoffs, John Tavares drives the net versus the Bruins. Rebound comes out nice, puts it in. They win in overtime. He scores the series clinching goal versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. He scored a hat trick in game 2 versus the Lightning when the Leafs won that series. And he had his fingerprints all over those moments. Those are me watching as a fan. I have certain memories and certain things that I remember that really stand out, that pop in my mind. The Tavares hat trick, the series clinching goal, the play where he drives to the net and Nye scores in overtime. Those are things that stick in my head that I remember as a fan, right? Over the years, there's tons of moments, right? Austin Matthews, 4 goals in his first game. Uh, Austin Matthews starting the season with back-to-back hat tricks. Like these are moments that stand out in your mind. These are moments like let's just say Nylander missed the first 3 games versus the Bruins, comes back in game 4, scores both goals, and the Leafs win that game. And he looked amazing in that game. And that's what I remember. Of the core 4, um, players that don't really have moments that stick out in your mind is only Marner, really. I don't really have any moments that really stand out in my mind when it comes to the playoffs and Mitch Marner. I would say the only real memory that stands out in my mind when it comes to Marner in the playoffs is probably when he had the puck driving down on Vasilevsky and shoots it off the pad and Matthews, hammers it into an empty net. That's probably the only memory I have. But that's the problem with like John Tavares has lived up to his contract. He's a point a game player. He's the second line center. He's doing everything he can within his abilities, right? Sometimes you really see him like the first half of last season, Tavares was on uh air. He was getting points in almost every game, multiple points. Him and Nylander were flying out of the gate. And I remember stuff like that. Um but unfortunately, John Tavares plays on a team with Austin Matthews, and Austin Matthews is always going to be the best player on the team. And he's John Tavares is 33 and entering the last year of his contract, and Matthews' 4-year contract just kicked in July. So it's now is the time, right? Now makes sense. The Leafs have built up to a certain point, and they want to build and even go to a higher level, and that requires a tangible change, right? And even though most of the roster is the same in terms of you got Marner, you got Nylander, you got Riley, Matthews, Tavares, there's still a tangible change in what the Leafs have done this summer. First of all, defense looks a lot better. It's much deeper. And what they've done is they've taken a team that was led by Sheldon Keefe and John Tavares, and they've handed it over to Craig Berube and Austin Matthews. That's a tangible change, right? When the coaching philosophy and the coaching style changes, and you have a new guy, like it's definitely going to hit different when the Leafs are, you know, pounding on teams and Austin Matthews is scoring goals. He's out there on the power plays and he's scoring. He scores goals at a record pace always. Um, but it's just gonna hit different. You see certain teams like the Chicago Blackhawks aren't a good team, but you can tell that their leader is Connor Bedard, and when he goes out there and he's playing a game where he's dominating puck possession and he's creating offense, it hits different. The energy inside the stadium is different. The stadium, the energy in the fan base is different, and then you just see the guys are different on the bench. Like I watch a lot of Chicago Blackhawks games, and there are nights where he's going where Connor Bedard is going, and then all of a sudden, a team of just regular everyday guys, bunch of third and fourth liners, all of a sudden are skating around, making tape to tape passes, cross crease in the slot, just one time and pucks in, and all of a sudden Mrazek is putting up amazing numbers, and it feels different. And I think that's what the Leafs are going for right now. They're taking the leadership and the captaincy away from John Tavares and giving it to a guy that's a little bit more animated. It's different when your captain scores a big goal and he's sliding and he's selling and you know he's doing one of these. It feels different. It's a different kind of energy. You're gonna feel it inside the stadium. Um, I can't wait for it, to be honest with you. Um, you know, I have season tickets and I cannot wait to be in the stadium for the games where Austin Matthews is going off and it's your captain that's leading the way. Right? It feels different when John Tavares is having a good game. He might get a goal, he might get a couple of assists, but when Austin Matthews is, scoring 6 hat tricks in a season, five, six, 7 hat tricks in a season, it takes away from you, and it takes away from the captain, and it takes away from the leadership. Where it's like you might be the captain, but somebody else is leading the way. So it only makes sense to make Austin Matthews the captain. His 4 year contract takes him through ages 27, 28, 29, 30. And I think when he's the captain and that contract comes up and he's 30 years old, about to turn 31, it only makes sense that the Leafs look at him and say, we want to lock you up to an 8 year contract. You're going to retire a Maple Leaf. And like he said himself at the press conference, the goal is to be a Toronto Maple Leaf for life. And I think that's when you give him, he's making 13 and a half now. So the only the only logical next step is to give him 15 and a half times 8. Hopefully the cap is well over 100 million by then. And he's taking up the same amount of cap space that he is now. Whatever the cap is, if he's taking up 13 and a half or 13.5%, almost 14% of the cap, then it makes sense to just extend him for 8 years, whatever the cap is at the time. It's definitely going to be over 100 million. Definitely going to be over. And let's see. Hey, oh, he's at 15%. Yeah, exactly. So he's at 15%. So when the cap is 100 million, going to be a $15 million guy. And that makes sense. You sign him to 8 years and you get the max, and he's going to go down as the greatest Maple Leaf of all time, the greatest captain of all time. He's going to own every single record there is. He already has the most goals in a season, most 60-goal seasons. He's got two 60-goal seasons. I think he's only like 30 or 40 something away, 40 something goals, almost 50 goals away from Sundin, which he could very well pass Sundin this season. Like it's insane. It there's there's no real reason not to name him captain. There's no doubt in my mind that he was going to be named captain if it wasn't for Babcock and that incident in Arizona. I think if that incident would have not been swept under the rug and have been brought up in September when training camp opened, I think if they would have talked about it in like May, June, whatever, when it happened, and then there was months went by, and people had a chance to talk about it, deal with it, and then situation calmed down a little bit, he would have been named captain. But it is what it is. He was named captain. Anyways, and it's a logical next step. I have so much respect for John Tavares and the way he handled the whole thing. Even when you watch the behind the scenes video that the Maple Leafs posted on YouTube, it was, you saw John Tavares laughing, cracking jokes. Um, he got his kids to show up in Austin Matthews jerseys with a C on it. He signed both of them. Uh, it's you can tell that the guy just wants. He's like, if this is what it takes to win a championship, then so be it. I'm like that as a fan. My mindset is, if you guarantee me a Stanley Cup, but if you told me the Leafs have to trade Austin Matthews, but they are guaranteed to win the Stanley Cup next season, I'd be like, trade Austin Matthews tomorrow. Like, do it today. I'll drive the guy to the airport myself. I don't care like who's on the team. I don't care who's the captain. At this point, I just want to see my team win and have continued success, long term success, and however you have to do it. That's why for me, it's not a big problem to talk about trading Marner or Nylander or whatever. It doesn't matter if you're gonna make the team better. That's all that's all that matters, right? I just want to see this team have success and win and go far in the playoffs and really compete for the Stanley Cup. But I mean, like Sheldon Keefe moved on to New Jersey, and a lot of people said, well, he's walking into a great situation because New Jersey is young. They got the Hughes brothers, they got all these players, they're good. And then now they got Markstrom, so they have this goalie, and they're going to be so amazing next year. But everyone's sleeping on the fact that like Craig Berube is walking into a situation where the Leafs have added two legitimate defensemen in Tanev and Oliver Ekman Larson to add to Riley, Liljegren, Benoit McCabe, and they got a seventh defenseman in Connor Timmins. Like, to have a team this deep and then all of a sudden change the vibe of the team, change the energy, and name Austin Matthews captain, I think it's a better situation, to be honest with you. I think Craig Berube, if he does what he's supposed to do, which is not get outcoached on a regular basis, like the way Sheldon Keefe was, especially in the playoffs. He's brought in some familiar faces that are going to help maybe with the power play. I mean, the Leafs power play was seventh in the NHL last year, so that's not bad. They could easily be top five, and Mark Savard is going to definitely help with that. He has the offensive mind. He was a very offensive player, great playmaker, and I think he might actually be able to help Marner a little bit. Marner has great vision and great playmaking skills, but Mark Savard was on a different level. Playing with the guys that he played with and the amount of offensive production that he created, I think it's definitely going to help a guy like Marner because they play the exact same role in NHL. The way Mark Savard played as a small playmaker, um, to guys who were scoring 30, 40, 50 goals, I think Marner's definitely going to benefit from that. I think the Leafs power play is going to benefit. But top seven is nothing to sneeze at. But their penalty killing and their goals against were very bad last year, and that's where a defensive minded coach like Greg Berube will definitely help. And it definitely helps to have um, two young goalies to build with in Wool and Stollers. And then, like I said, the defense is way deeper than anybody realizes currently, just because, Riley and Tanev are going to be good. Oliver Ekman Larson and Liljegren are going to be good. And then you have Benoit McCabe, who showed a lot of chemistry last season. But beyond that, you still have Connor Timmins. You have Philippe Myers. You have all these young guys on the Marlies that they signed in the off season. And if these guys turn out the way William Lagesson and Benoit turned out, once they got the opportunity, when the Leafs saw their potential and gave them the opportunity and they played well, the Leafs are easily. They already have 7 defensemen with Connor Timmins, so they could be 8 to 10 D-men deep this season come the playoffs. And, you know, they can easily add to that come the trade deadline as well. Um, I think the questions are more who's going to play third line center, who's going to play left wing on the top 3 lines. You have McMahon, you have Nyes. Robertson's not signed yet, but I think he will sign. Um, it's it's a lot to think about. I'm getting very excited thinking about the season as is. Um, but this move for the captaincy was inevitable, but it was celebrated properly. Even though everyone saw it coming and they knew it was going to happen eventually, it was celebrated properly. John Tavares showed up, very classy, very elegant. This guy is an amazing human being to do this the way he did it. He showed up, he had a prepared statement, he knew everybody was going to pick apart every single word, so he made sure to have something written down and he didn't um steer away from it. Like he didn't go off script. And he said some things that are very important. He said, now is the time because Matthews has grown into it. This is his time now. His contract just kicked in. He's got 4 years and then probably another 8 after that. So he's got 12 years to be captain. And and John Tavares made sure to say that, like, this doesn't say anything about me. I'm still in great shape. I'm going to be playing hockey for a long time. I'm going to contribute at a high level. Whether, he just had, what, 65 points last year. He's been a point a game player the previous years in Toronto. If he's anywhere around, 65 to 80 points a season and scoring 20 to 30 goals, that's perfect for him. Because when the Leafs sign him to a lesser contract and the cap hit comes down, and he's still producing at 20 to 30 goals with 60 to 80 points, that's going to be amazing production for that type of contract. It's going to be William Nylander at 6.9 all over again. And it's definitely going to be lower than 6.9 as well. So, everybody always said that, like, Nylander was a value contract based on his points production, his goal scoring, and John Tavares is going to be the same thing, and that adds to his legacy. Like, he showed up. He took less money to come here. He was offered 13 million in New York and San Jose, and he took less money to come here because he wanted to win in Toronto. And then, you know, he's the one that scores the goal to win the Leafs their first playoff series in 20 years. Right? But his legacy gets even better because if he's contributing to winning and he's taking less money to do it, to free up more opportunities for the Leafs going on in the off season, because if the cap goes up another $4 to $5 million like it did this year, and then Tavares and Marner come off. That's 22 million. So you got 5 plus 22, and all of a sudden the Leafs go into off season with Tanev signed, Ekman signed, Riley signed. Everyone is signed on the fence. The goalies are signed, the forwards are signed. All of a sudden you have $27 million to spend, and then let's say Leon Draisaitl doesn't come to terms on a new contract in Edmonton, and then he hits free agency. Then all of a sudden the Leafs have $27 million to look at Leon Draisaitl and be like, we can legitimately give you 13 million and not even blink because we have $27 million in cap space. Or, they can hold on to it and then go after Connor McDavid, maybe. Maybe it's in terms of the free agents and goal scoring. There's a lot of guys that hit the free agent market, and then you might not even have to go big. Maybe the Leafs have a top four signed in terms of Riley, Tanev, Oliver Ekman Larson, and Liljegren. And then all of a sudden, a defenseman like Adam Fox becomes available, or Jacob Trouba becomes available, or Chris Letang becomes available, or, it's, you know, Drew Doughty. I don't know. But there's a lot of possibilities when you have cap space. There's a lot of possibility. And the Leafs had a ton of cap space. They had 20, I believe they had 21 or $22 million going into the offseason this year. And they spent it wisely. They tried to sign Bertuzzi and they couldn't. So they went and got Tanev. They added on a year to the contract to bring down the cap hit. And they got Domi at a great number. They got Tanev at a great number. They got Oliver Ekman Larson at a great number. They signed Stollers, which Stollers got less money than a guy like Brossoit in Winnipeg. And it's just they spent it and they sprinkled it around. Low cap hits, but let's get a bunch of guys in here. And, imagine like an off season where the Leafs have cap space and all of a sudden they add a Toffoli, they add a, like a Marchment. Like they go out and sign like a bunch of $4 or $5 million guys. Like let's just say like pretty much what Nashville did in the offseason. They went and got Marchessault $5 million. They went and got Shea for $7. They gave Stamkos $8. That's $20 million, and those are three significant players. I don't think the Las Vegas Golden Knights will really understand the type of heart and soul they lost, and not wanting to pay guys like Marchessault, who scored 40 goals as a $5 million player. I mean, but yeah, that's what cap space does. And Nashville created that opportunity for themselves to be able to go and spend because they had so much of it. And the Leafs are going to have opportunities like that in the summer. So, if they go to Tavares and they sign him for five, I think the contract will be in and around $5 million for 4 years. I think $5 million is a great number for a guy who's going to score 20 to 30 goals and 65 to 80 points. That's a perfect cap hit. There's nothing, and he's still going to be part of the leadership group. He's going to support Matthews and give him what he needs. I mean, like, when I just think about this team heading into this season with Craig Berube, an improved defense, young, stable goaltending, uh, a great offense that's going to score a lot of goals, and it's all being captained by a top three player in the NHL in his prime. 27, 28, 29, 30. This is Matthews' prime. We've seen two 60-goal seasons and a 69-goal season. It's I'd be surprised if he doesn't improve. I'd be surprised if at one point in his career this guy doesn't actually score 70 or more goals in a season. But I find like the hockey fans of today sleep on these things. They don't think it's important. They don't even think it's a big deal that this guy scored 69 goals in a season. It's so easily just passed up on. Oh, who cares? He scored 69 goals. This guy got, the Leafs got outed in the first round. What does that have to do with anything? This guy scoring goals at a Mario Lemieux pace. Like, he's got more goals at this point in his career than Ovechkin did at this point in his career. And if that's any indication of where the trajectory is, this guy's going to be the greatest goal scorer of his generation. It's literally Ovechkin and then pass the torch to Matthews. And that's something to scoff at. That's something to roll your eyes at. Like, this guy scored 51 goals in 50 games, and other than the real hockey purists on TV calling the games, talking about the guys who talk about hockey on TV, radio, and stuff, they're like, I don't think we're ever going to see this again. 50 goals in 50 games. This guy did 51 goals in 50 games, and the hockey fans around the league were like, so what? McDavid is better. How are, why is that? Why would that even compute in your head? We're talking about a guy scoring 50 goals in 50 games. That is a crazy thing, but like nobody around the league in terms of like hockey fans really thought that that was like an accomplishment. They're like, so what? Like, what do you mean, so what? Like, McDavid scored, had 100 assists last season. Everyone's going crazy. Why? It's only worth celebrating because you think he's the best player in the game. I don't think it matters. I think, if a fourth liner, if David Kampf goes off for 50 points in 50 games, you don't just brush it off because he's a third line center or he's primarily a power play, a penalty kill guy. You say, wow, this guy just did something on par with Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux, Bobby Orr. Like, that's insane. Um, yeah, it's definitely hard to have conversations nowadays because the validity, like the weight of certain stats really are lost on people. They just brush past it. They're like, oh yeah, well, I don't like Austin Matthews, so I don't think he's the best player in the game, so who cares what he did? It's weird. I don't know how you could be a fan of any sport and brush off greatness. Like, you're a true baseball fan. Like, Aaron Judge right now is quickly becoming one of the best power hitters to ever play in the game. Like, Vladdy Guerrero is having a second half on the level of Barry Bonds, and I've actually seen the comparison side by side, and it's actually better than Barry Bonds' numbers. So, regardless of whether he's the best player in the game or on the best team, or he's going to make the playoffs or he's not going to make the playoffs, if you love the sport, like for me as a hockey fan, just talking about hockey, I want to see great things happen. And usually, when, let's say, it's two teams in the playoffs and I'm watching, like, let's just say, like, I'm watching Nashville versus Dallas, right? If it's a game seven, I'm rooting for the team that's at home because I want to see those fans go ape shit when their team wins and then they explode. I love that. I love watching that stadium explode when the buzzer goes in the third period and they throw their equipment up in the air and the fans go insane. Like, I love seeing that, right? If there's a game seven, I'm always rooting for the home team. I don't care who it is. It could be the Montreal Canadiens, whatever. I always root for the fan. I want the fan experience to be amazing. I was in the stadium when I saw Matthew score his 60th goal against the Detroit Red Wings. I was right behind the net, first row, second balcony. I was right behind the net when he roofed it in top corner. When he turned around at the blue line and came down Broadway without being inhibited at all, I knew he was going to rip that top corner. And I have it on video. That was a moment I was there. I caught it on my phone. I was there live and I celebrated it. You could see me and my cousin going ape shit. We're jumping up and down. We're screaming. That's what hockey's about. That's what sports are about. It's moments. Now, whether it's my guy or your guy or a different team or whatever it is, it's amazing to see. Like, we watch sports to see greatness. And I think Austin Matthews is easily going to be one of the best or the greatest Maple Leaf of all time. He's going to have easily 10 years under his belt as captain, which is really going to help his legacy. And the ultimate, the ultimate, you know, cherry on top of the cake for your legacy as a captain, as a great player of any franchise, is to win. And you got to get the win. And, you know, the Leafs have been building a long time. And I think it's just going to be a different vibe around the team with this guy as captain. You're going to feel it. It's going to be tangible in the stadium. I've noticed that missing in certain times when I've been in the stadium, right? So I'm in the stadium, I'm watching a game, and it's not so much John Tavares, yelling at guys on the bench or making a play, but all of a sudden you see like Matthews make a play and he scores a goal, and all of a sudden the Leafs tie it up or they go up by one. They don't come out in the next shift with this energy that like our captain is like dragging us to a victory. And so sometimes it's deflating, and you feel that in the stadium and you see it in the team, and then all of a sudden they give up a goal in the next shift. And it's just different when like Connor McDavid is the guy and he's skating around people and he's just roofing it. And then all of a sudden, guys are going to the net and he's banking it off guys in the net. And all of a sudden, the Oilers score two, three, four quick goals on you, and it snowballs. That's the different energy that a captain brings when he's dominating. We saw it for many years with Matt Sundin as the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. There are just some nights when he just put the team on his back and he dragged them to victory, and it brought other guys along with him. So that's really what I'm looking for, and it's going to be exciting to be in the stadium a lot this year and to see that, to feel that tangible change, the energy in the stadium, the energy around the team. You know, I really hope um, Austin Matthews can his um his energy, his attitude rubs off on the team. It's okay to celebrate big goals. It's okay to pump your fist. You didn't see it so much with Tavares. You saw it in the big moments. You know, he scored some big goals versus the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Bruins, and you saw him like, really get amped up. But he's never going to do it to the level that Austin Matthews does in big moments. And you know, I think it's definitely going to be a tangible difference. Like when you saw it in the first couple of years when Matthews and Marner came in together and they were just flying, scoring goals, and they were celebrating goals. Like there was a crazy energy inside the stadium. I remember being at some of the games, and the energy was just insane. It felt like the roof was going to blow off the place. And then all of a sudden they named Tavares captain, and that explosive energy inside the stadium kind of just like went away. It quieted down because that's the persona of the captain. So that's what I'm really looking forward to. I'm getting very excited for the season, for training camp to kick off. Um, you know, season tickets will drop into my account soon. I'm actually going to be selling a bunch off. So if you are following me on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, um, I'm gonna be posting games and I'm gonna be selling them at face value. So um, if you're looking to go to games and not spend a crazy amount, stay tuned. Well, that concludes the second episode of the TML Domain podcast. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Like and subscribe always if you like the content. And join us in the comments. Let us know what you think of the captaincy, what you think, if you're getting excited, what do you think it's going to happen this season. The Florida Panthers lost some good players. Um, the Tampa Bay Lightning have lost some players. Um, it feels like of all of the years, with the momentum that the Leafs have going into the regular season, new captain, new coach, better defense, it seems like this is the year that they could really win the division. And I'm actually very excited to see that come to fruition. I think, with the Florida Panthers losing Ekman Larson and Brandon Montour, um, I think it's going to make a tangible difference. Tampa Bay lost Stamkos and some other guys that they had to trade away. Sergachev and Tanner Jeannot. I mean, anything goes. I think this is the year the Leafs could ultimately win their division and get home ice and take that into the playoffs and ride that momentum. I think it's a definite possibility. I'm banking on it. It's going to be a great season. Very excited for it to get started. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Have a good day.